As the countdown hit 0, attention abruptly switched to some rocks, sparking curiosity and confusion. Amidst this, a quirky debate about a cat symbolizing jail versus freedom arose, with the cat amusingly the only one in water. What disaster might be lurking around the corner from these odd events? Let's discover how a simple science demo can quickly spiral into chaos. A surprising day at the Science Museum. In this science museum, they were trying to show an experiment with liquid hydrogen. The countdown starts. 4, 3, 2, 1. Suddenly, they focus on rocks. How many rocks are there? Someone asks. 1, 2, 3. Wow! In another scene, someone wonders, no way, what do you think will happen next? In a surprising turn, the idea of jail versus freedom comes up, illustrated by a cat. The free cat, the only one in the water, someone points out. Meanwhile, a visitor shares a time-lapse video of a mosquito bite swelling up. During all this, a self-driving car with no driver gets stopped by the police because of a misunderstanding. The car was just following its usual route, but the police stopped it, raising questions about how technology and law enforcement interact. Elsewhere in the city, a dramatic story unfolds. An Uber driver talks about seeing a woman enter a store, then trying to use him as a getaway driver. The driver says, "Sir, I didn't break anything. I didn't crash anything. You've committed a crime. I haven't committed any crime. But you need to get out of my car because you've committed a crime." This shows how quickly everyday situations can turn into big problems. But that wasn't the worst part. The drama continued to unfold, showing how misunderstandings can lead to even bigger issues. In an unexpected turn, a man walks down a path and suddenly realizes something amazing about his abilities. He wonders aloud, "Am I a master of water, or maybe an airbender?" As he thinks about this, an orangutan nearby sees its reflection for the first time and looks surprised and curious. The scene changes to a group of donkeys who seem very interested in a new air conditioning unit. The donkeys really like this, someone says, noticing how comfortable they seem. In this funny setting, someone claims ownership of a bologna sandwich. "That one's mine. The knee. That's my bologna sandwich," a voice says, adding humor to the scene.
That's my bologna sandwich with head over heels. I need to know.
As the story continues, another character demands shoes. "I need heels," they say, showing a mix of desperation and need. Meanwhile, an ant grabs everyone's attention as it carries a house of flowers to impress its girlfriend. This little act of romance shows the creativity and determination in nature, making people smile at the simple yet complex behaviors of animals. Just then, the man with the unique abilities decides to test his powers. He tries to control water, moving it with his mind. As he does, the donkeys move closer to the air conditioner, enjoying the cool breeze even more. The orangutan, still fascinated by its reflection, starts making funny faces. In another corner, a group of people gathers around the ant, cheering it on as it carries the flowers. The character who needed heels finally gets a pair, but they are 2 sizes too small. This mix of funny and sweet moments creates a scene that's both heartwarming and amusing. Yet, this wasn't the end of the surprises. The man, excited about his new powers, accidentally creates a small rainstorm. The donkeys, loving the cool water, start to play in the rain. The orangutan, seeing the rain, looks even more curious and starts to dance. The crowd laughs and claps, enjoying the unexpected show. Meanwhile, the ant reaches its girlfriend with the flowers and they share a tiny, happy moment. The character with the small heels decides to go barefoot, joining the donkeys in their playful fun. The whole scene becomes a delightful mix of laughter, surprises, and simple joys. Next, we explore the historic nuclear test that reshaped science and the world. Lessons from failed scientific experiments. A scientific experiment is a planned process to explore or test a theory. It helps us learn more about specific topics and sometimes check for possible dangers. While doing experiments, things can get stressful and scary, but these moments often teach us important lessons about how we react under pressure. This is especially interesting if you like learning about human behavior in tough situations. Scientists often try to control things they can't, leading to surprising or even funny results. Experiments that go wrong are always interesting. They might start with great ideas, but can end up in disaster. No one starts a science project expecting to fail, but what if things don't go as planned? Here are 20 scientific experiments that didn't turn out as expected. One example from the 1930s is about Winthrop Niles Kellogg and his wife Luella, who did a strange experiment. They raised their son Donald with a chimpanzee named Gua as siblings. They wanted to see if chimps could act like humans if raised in a human environment. The experiment was supposed to last 5 years but stopped after only 9 months. Donald was 10 months old, and Gua was 7.5 months old when they started. The Kellogg's hoped for good results, but got more than they expected. Their son Donald started acting more like a chimp than a human. He made chimp noises, got very angry, and even bit people. During the experiment, he copied his sister Gua's behaviors. He grunted, growled, moved on all fours, and fought like wild animals with Gua. The experiment stopped when the Kellogg's saw how it affected their son. Gua was sent away and sadly died of pneumonia a year later. But this wasn't the worst part. Now, let's look at the strange world of experiments on conjoined twins. While some have been successful, many went worse than expected. Sometimes this happened because the experiments weren't carefully planned or didn't follow scientific rules. Some cases are just weird, but they teach us important lessons. For example, there's an unsettling image of a man in the woods with a woman's head in his mouth. The man's mouth looked badly torn. This shows how unpredictable and scary experiments can be when they don't go as planned. In all these stories, we see that experiments can lead to surprising and sometimes shocking results. Whether it's raising a child with a chimp or strange experiments on conjoined twins, things can go wrong in unexpected ways. But each failed experiment teaches us something new, even if it's just about the limits of what we can control. On July 16, 1945, something big happened in the empty plains of the Alamogordo bombing range, 210 miles south of Los Alamos, New Mexico. This place, called Jornada del Muerto, was the site of the world's first nuclear explosion. It was a key moment in both science and the military. The test involved a plutonium bomb set on a 100-foot tower, which exploded at exactly 5:30 in the morning. The blast was enormous, releasing 18.6 kilotons of energy. The explosion vaporized the tower and turned the nearby sand and asphalt into green glass, known as trinitite. The intense heat waves from the blast knocked down everyone watching. J. Robert Oppenheimer named the test Trinity after a poem by John Donne. The explosion left an eerie mark on the land, with a wide area showing where the huge energy changed the landscape. Today, only a few pieces of the green trinitite glass are left, kept safe in a giant 214-ton steel container. This container was designed to hold the plutonium from the bomb's 5,300 pounds of explosives without causing another nuclear explosion. But there's more to explore. Just a short distance away, the plans for a world-changing bomb were made. Secrets of the McDonald Ranch House. But that wasn't the only interesting part. Just 2 miles south, there's the renovated McDonald Ranch House, where the plans for the plutonium bomb were made. About 10 miles southwest of the explosion site are the remains of the base camp, where 200 scientists, soldiers, and technicians lived during the summer of 1945. This place and what happened there show how powerful human invention can be, changing both the land and history in huge ways. However, this was not the end of the story. The events at Trinity site were just the beginning of a new era. Every cell in the experiment had 3 specific costs tied to it. The guards and the warden had their rooms next to these cells. Across from the cells, there was a room for solitary confinement and another room for a different purpose. The prison yard was important because it randomly picked 24 volunteers to be either prisoners or guards for the experiment. During the experiment, the prisoners had to stay in the fake prison all the time, living there day and night. The guards worked in shifts of 8 hours each to keep things in order, going home between shifts while the experiment was watched through hidden cameras and microphones. The Stanford prison experiment was supposed to last for 14 days, but had to stop after only 6 days because things got really bad. The guards became more abusive, and the prisoners showed signs of severe stress and anxiety. Even though they could talk to each other, the conversations often turned ugly, with guards becoming violent and rude, while prisoners became submissive and depressed. To protect their well-being, 5 prisoners who showed extreme emotional distress like crying and acute anxiety were released early from the study. But this wasn't the worst part. The researchers, led by Zimbardo, who acted as the prison superintendent, began to lose perspective. They tolerated the harsh behavior of the guards until Christina Maslach, a graduate student, strongly objected to the unethical conditions and the moral implications of continuing the experiment. In a different story of human endeavor, Franz Reichelt, an Austrian-born tailor living in France at the turn of the century, became fascinated by the rapid progress in early aviation. After hearing about many aviation disasters, he was inspired to create a parachute suit that could save pilots' lives while being light enough for practical use. Despite his enthusiasm and the innovative prototypes he developed, all initial tests failed, with dummies crashing to the ground from his apartment building in Paris. Reichelt thought the testing method, not the invention itself, was flawed. He believed a higher vantage point was needed for a proper test, which led him to the Eiffel Tower. On February 4, 1912, he invited friends, reporters, and camera operators to see his triumphant jump from the first platform. Sadly, things did not go as planned, and Reichelt fell to his death. His parachute folded around him and he landed on the frosty grass, suffering immediate and fatal injuries. On a lighter note about innovation, McDonald's introduced a broccoli-flavored bubblegum to offer healthier options. While the gum was not popular, McDonald's had been adding healthier choices to their menu for a while, like fruit salads and wraps. Although there was some debate about how healthy these items actually were, most kids continued to enjoy their Happy Meals, unaware that the size of the fries had been reduced in 2011 and that fruit could be chosen as a side. In 2014, McDonald's CEO Donald Thompson was questioned about what the fast food giant was doing to provide better eating options for children. By then, the restaurant had already adjusted its Happy Meal menu 3 years earlier, reducing the amount of fries and adding fruit options. Switching gears, let's see what happened when McDonald's tried making broccoli taste like bubblegum. A taste test failure. Thompson talked about several new ways to get kids to eat healthier. One interesting idea was making broccoli taste like bubblegum. If McDonald's had tried this, it might have changed how kids think about fast food. But when this bubblegum-flavored broccoli was tested, it didn't work out as planned. The kids, who were the main focus, didn't like it and were confused. Even social media influencers weren't impressed. Thompson admitted the results were disappointing. William Henry Perkin, a young scientist, was trying to make a medicine for malaria in 1856. Instead, he ended up with a messy brown sludge. But something amazing happened when 18-year-old Perkin cleaned his equipment with alcohol. The brown gunk turned into a bright purple dye, which he called Mauvain. This accidental discovery was so important that Google made a doodle to celebrate his 180th birthday. Before Perkin's discovery, making dyes was tough and expensive. Bright colors like red, orange, yellow, and blue came from crushing metals and stones or using plants. These natural dyes didn't last long and faded quickly. But Mauvain was different. It stayed vibrant for much longer. This made synthetic dyes affordable and changed the dye industry, leading to many new chemical advancements. Now let's talk about the Michelson-Morley experiment. This was an effort to measure the Earth's movement through a supposed substance called ether. Often just called the Michelson experiment, Albert Michelson and Edward Morley carried out these tests at Case Western University in 1881 and again in 1887 with better tools. Even though they didn't find what they were looking for, the experiment was still important. It helped explain the strange way light behaves, supporting other discoveries like Young's double-slit experiment. By the late 19th century, people widely accepted the wave theory of light. In the world of electromagnetic energy, scientists faced a big question: how do waves move through different spaces? They knew waves needed something to pass through, like an invisible bridge in space. One popular idea was that light could travel perfectly through empty space. If this was true, scientists thought they could measure the Earth's movement through this invisible space, known as the ether. Albert A. Michelson and Edward W. Morley wanted to test this idea. They wondered if the ether might not be still, but moving. Their experiments aimed to see if the Earth moved against this ether. At that time, most people believed the ether was a stationary medium that only vibrated, but Michelson and Morley had a different view. But that wasn't the worst part. On June 4th, 1974, the Cleveland Indians hosted a promotional event with 10-cent beers. Fans could buy as many 8-ounce Stroh's beers as they wanted at this low price. This happened just 6 days after a big fight at a game against the Texas Rangers in Arlington Stadium. During the fight, Tom Grieve of Texas walked after Lenny Randle hit a single and rolled the ball to the Indians' third baseman, John Lowenstein. Randle's aggressive slide ruined Lowenstein's throw to second base, and the Rangers took an early lead. That night, chaos took over the stadium as drunk fans caused trouble. A naked man slid into second base. A woman flashed the crowd and tried to kiss the umpire, and a father and son duo taunted other spectators. In another historical moment, after the Spanish-American War of 1898, the U.S. military's control of Cuba raised concerns about tropical diseases. The U.S. Surgeon General sent Major Walter Reed and a team of young doctors to investigate yellow fever. Reed's team conducted experiments, exposing themselves and others to the dangerous disease to understand how it spread. These experiments were successful and showed that yellow fever was transmitted by mosquitoes. This discovery led to effective mosquito control programs which helped reduce the disease. But the challenges didn't stop there. Biosphere 2 aimed to recreate Earth itself, but not everything went as planned. The rise and fall of Biosphere 2. From 1991 to 1993, Biosphere 2 was a big scientific project aiming to recreate Earth's ecosystems in a sealed environment. This project, housed in a modern glass structure, attracted global media attention. Despite high hopes, Biosphere 2 faced problems like a lack of oxygen and food shortages, and it was eventually seen as a failed scientific experiment. However, it taught valuable lessons about the challenges of creating self-sustaining ecosystems on Earth. In a world that feels straight out of a sci-fi movie, things outside are changing fast. The new documentary Spaceship Earth tells the amazing story of Biosphere 2. This project started with a bunch of hippie theater performers with big dreams. They wanted to change the world and dived into art, business, ecology, and technology without knowing exactly where to begin. Led by John Allen, they believed in learning by doing. Surprisingly, this method worked well, showing their mix of creativity and determination. Switching gears, the NBA's sudden switch to a new synthetic basketball in the summer of 2006 caused a lot of drama. Commissioner David Stern introduced it as the next big thing in basketball, the first major change in nearly 35 years, and only the second in 60 years. The new Spalding ball had a fancy design and was made of microfiber to improve grip and performance. But players like Shaquille O'Neal from the Miami Heat hated it, saying it felt like a cheap toy. The ball was hard to handle, leading to more mistakes and lower scores, turning the new idea into a disaster. Back in the 1950s, a Soviet scientist named Vladimir Demikov shocked the world by creating a two-headed dog. His work in transplantology pushed medical science forward, but also sparked huge debates about the ethics of such experiments. Demikov transplanted the head of one dog onto another dog's body, raising big questions about life and scientific responsibility. During the Great Depression, a troubling human experiment happened in Iowa. Mary Tudor conducted a study on speech impediments, trying to make orphans stutter to understand its causes. This experiment left the children with lasting psychological scars and was later criticized for its unethical methods, showing the dark side of psychological research. But this wasn't the worst part. These stories, each mixing ambition with cautionary tales, show the complex relationship between human goals and the ethical dilemmas in science and technology. Whether it's changing the environment, updating sports gear, pioneering surgeries, or pushing psychological boundaries, these stories remind us of human creativity and its consequences. The hippie performers in Spaceship Earth showed that even the wildest dreams could become real with creativity and hard work. On the other hand, the new basketball in the NBA showed that not every change is for the better, especially when the players can't use it well. Then there's Demikov's two-headed dog, which made people think hard about what science should and shouldn't do. And Mary Tudor's experiment on orphans is a dark reminder of the harm that can come from unethical research. Considering the outcomes of these experiments, should science have limits? Let's discuss. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.